Yes, guys. Hello and welcome back to the Spurs-related YouTube channel and podcast. I hope everyone is doing very well today. Today, we have a little Tottenham Hotspur update for you guys. A big bit of news that came out earlier, all related to ENIC investing £100 million into the football club. And we're going to have a little look ahead to Tottenham's next fixtures after what is a boring international break as far as I'm concerned. I'll ask Dave what he's thinking on the Irish side. But Dave, absolute pleasure to have you back on the channel, my friend. We have been in regular contact for other reasons other than Tottenham Hotspur in the way of FIFA, which I'm sure you'd love to tell the Spurs-related followers about. But guys, please do the usual. Hit the like button as you come in, hit the subscribe button, and turn on the notification bell if you are new to the stream. And yes, Dave, mate, pleasure. How are you doing, my friend?
Yeah, I'm keeping well. Look, I thought the reason why you brought me here today was to, dissect your game in FIFA and sort of give you pointers on where to improve and stuff like that. Obviously, that's not the case. You brought me here to speak about Tottenham Hotspur. But no, yeah, it's been fun beating you in the new game. I have to say it's been very fun.
Yeah, you're making it out as if you've beaten me every game, mate. So was it 3-2? So, yeah, anyway, we'll have to put things right tomorrow. On the old gaming side of things. But Logan's in the house already. He says, not sure how I'm feeling about the 100 million investment. Better than nothing, I guess. Evening, James and Frank as well. Hope you're both doing well. Frank is well. He's not with us tonight. I've got an adequate replacement in, of course, Dave Harris. He's also saying, I also hope the players can stay fit with these terrible fixtures coming up. We're going to review the fixtures as well, Logan. But first things first, Dave, of course, as you would have seen earlier today, this massive news about an initial £100 million capital investment. It's all very sort of Spurs-like, in my opinion, with all these like different announcements, these PR announcements about this and that. So we'll get into things. I'm just going to blow this up on the screen. I'm sure you've read this already, Dave. Tottenham Hotspur announced initial £100 million investment. It's at 10 a.m. this morning. We are pleased to announce that our majority shareholder, the Lewis Family Trust, they call it the Lewis Family Trust, Dave. It's normally ENIC. Through ENIC Sports and Development Holdings Limited, ENIC, injected 100 million of new capital into the club. This equity injection will go further to strengthen the club's financial position and equip the club's leadership team with additional resources to continue the focus on driving long-term sporting success. This additional capital is part of the Lewis family's ongoing commitment to the club and its future. Peter Charrington, the non-executive chairman, Tottenham Hotspur, said, as I stated a few weeks ago, our focus is on stability and empowering the management team to deliver on the club's ambitions. I know the Lewis family are also ambitious for the future. Today's capital commitment reflects that ambition, and I would like to thank them for their ongoing support. We will continue to do all we can to ensure that Vinay and his team are supported in the best possible way to take this club forward. Short and sweet, Dave. Only 3 paragraphs. What do you make of that, mate? What do you think of this? Do you think it's a real change in ENIC, or do you think this is a bit of like, pulling the wool over our eyes kind of situation?
Well, look, from what I'm seeing in terms of, when over the last couple of weeks, there's a few suitors interested in buying the football club, and, sort of Spurs have been consistent in putting out that they're not for sale. I think the restructuring at board level, I think the fact that they're trying to brand themselves now as the Lewis family rather than ENIC shows that maybe they are serious on taking this football club forward. If you go back to an interview that was on the Tottenham Hotspur YouTube channel there a month ago with Vinay, he sort of reaffirmed their commitment to Tottenham Hotspur. He spoke about, the brother and also the son-in-law, sort of taking reins at Tottenham Hotspur now, heavily involved, and that they want to keep it in the generations to come. So, and that they and also in that interview, he said, they understand that it's going to take investment and they're willing to back it. So I think that sent out a powerful statement, and everything we've seen since, that DJ ENIC or whatever you want to call him, him and his consortium, flirting with Tottenham Hotspur and a few others, they've all pulled out, which means they've obviously been given the signal that Tottenham is not for sale or being priced out the market. So I think by all indications, I think the Lewis family are going to keep hold of it. I don't think they have any intentions of selling whatsoever. So now it's up to them to put the investment in. And, I think it's off to a good start, isn't it? By throwing in that 100 million. I think, again, it cements, everything that they've it sort of backs up everything that they've been saying in terms of we're not selling and that they're willing to put money into the club. So I think all in all, it's a good thing. But I think, in general, many Spurs fans will probably read the headlines and go, oh, that's brilliant. We've got 100 million war chest for the January transfer window. I don't think that would be the case. We've got a lot of loans that we need to be able to pay back and meet repayments for. We got a lot of players that we've bought. When you buy players, the deal's amortized over a number of years. So we've got repayments on that we also need to make and stuff like that. So I would say not all of it will go straight into the transfer kitty, but you would hope by paying off all these other things that also need to be paid with it, it would free up more money than what we would have had initially going into January, which means there should be at least 50 million or so in what I would hope, for the January transfer window to at least bring in a player of a certain quality to try and help kick us on. So all in all, look, it's a good thing. One thing I said when the Lewis family took over, I'm not going to sit here and just happy clap, because at the end of the day, Daniel Levy sort of offered or was working off, the self-sustainability model that they were happy to let him work off and that they put in place and everything else. So I wanted to see it sort of backed up. And I think many fans would argue this is the first stage of backing it up.
Yeah, 100%. And I think you're very level-headed in your assessment, in the fact that you think it won't be just suddenly £100 million war chest. It will be very much maybe a £50 million player that comes in January. Of course, a lot of Tottenham Hotspur fans are hoping for a certain couple of players, one of which is Antoine Semenyo, which keeps getting mentioned, with him just signing a 5 to 6 year contract at Bournemouth. That's going to invite at least a 80, 90, £100 million price tag on that. Do you think that money could be put towards a big signing in January like that, Dave? Or do you expect, maybe in terms of the transfers, do you expect it very much to be quite a lulled January and quite a quieter January? Or do you really think we can use some of this money to push on?
Well, look, if I'm just going back over my lifetime of being a Tottenham fan, we've had very few revolutionary January transfer windows, and clubs do in general have very few sort of revolutionary January transfer windows. It's very hard to get the business you need to get done because it's a much more condensed period of time than the summer window. It's only 1 month. Also, it is one of them where if you're buying a player, you almost have to wait for that club to get their player, in the door first, and it all sort of has a knock-on effect. It's more like a chain sort of system. So it's very difficult, in January, but also, you would, if Tottenham are going to a club, you would hope that they're going to the club and taking one of their better players or a player that is performing, which is going to cost, and we know with Tottenham in years gone by, they've been very hesitant to sort of put up them transfer fees. So I think it'd be very interesting that if a player of the right quality does become available, will they put up the transfer fee? Yeah. So I think the January transfer window for me, though, James, is not about panicking. It's not a sake of just getting in bodies for the sake of bringing in bodies. We made that mistake in the first season under Ange. We brought in Werner and Dragusin, didn't exactly help with our problems. The second season under Ange Postecoglou, we brought in, Tell, Kinski, and Danzo. You'd argue Danzo was the only one that really came in and solved an issue. So it's a very hard window to sort of operate in. So I don't exactly have a lot of demands from Tottenham or the Lewis family in the January transfer window. However, it is nice going in there. By all intents and purposes, from what we're seeing, that Tottenham look like they're going into window with intent to looking to improve the squad, which I think is a good thing and is probably exciting for many. And I think maybe you can start believing more into some of the transfer windows we've been reading than in years gone by, where we've been linked with, soppy bollocks and this cunt over here, you know what I mean? And we don't end up getting any, and they're never realistic in the first place. So, Look, I think the good thing is at least we're going into this January with a bit of intent behind us, I suppose, James. So we can get excited.
Yeah, sure. Would you say, in short, that to summarize on this sort of particular point, it makes you more excited or optimistic for January? Or, as you're saying, because it's a hard window to acquire some decent players, that this isn't going to make too much of a difference? Or are you kind of in between?
No, look, I'm excited going into window. I think, a lot of people have mentioned Ademola Lookman, probably still be available in the January transfer window if we wanted to do a bit of business. You'd like to think there's probably a fullback on the market that maybe we could go and get, potentially a centre midfielder. I think many people have been looking at maybe a game-changing left winger, maybe a striker. I think that's where many people's focus is. I think many people are looking at someone like Semenyo. if you're realistic, Bournemouth ain't going to sell in January. They'll wait to the summer and get a really high price for them, where a lot of people will be, there'll be a lot of demand around them. I think they've done a bit of smart business this year, although there was a lot of interest. I think they've realised that goals are the hardest thing to come by at Premier League level. So that's why they were happy to sell off maybe more of the back line than maybe someone like Semenyo. And I feel like, it's given them a bit more time to sort of find the right replacement and stuff. So I think they'll be happy to sell him in the summer. So I'll be very surprised if Spurs can get something like that done in January. And same as a striker, I'd be very surprised if there's a striker on the market in January that we can go and get. That'd be a game changer. So for me, it's more about sort of trying to plug the holes as best as you can. And then, really looking at it in the summer. For me, that's where I'm really going to judge the Lewis family is next summer. Are we going to leave it a month or 2 months before we start bringing in players? Or are we going to start acting early like some of the other big clubs? Are we going to start bringing in players of the calibers of the likes of Paulinho, the likes of Kudus, that we've already seen massive dividends from? I think fans have been proven right on that in years gone by when they've been screaming about quality over quantity. Paulinho has come in, put points on the board. Kudus has come in and put points on the board. Without them two, we'd be very much in the same situation we were last season. So for me, it's all about how they act next summer. Not that I'm going to give them a free pass in January, but I think it's very hard to get the desired business or the desired quality that you need in the January market, James.
Yeah, no, I think you're spot on. I think it is a very, very difficult window to sort of summarize, and I also believe that this fan base is quite hot and cold in terms of reacting to certain things. Like, for example, because they now know we've got £100 million, they will associate that with a war chest, and if we haven't spent over £150 million in January, it's a disaster. And I think there needs to be a bit of a step back and assess that this is actually for the wider sake of the club. You mentioned other things that could be used. I've seen bits maybe like 10 million of that 100 million to be used on the women's team or in the development team, for example. And also, you've got to also remember that Xavi Simons, 200k a week, Romero, 200k a week. I mean, these guys are earning in 5 weeks £1 million. So actually, £100 million in the grand scheme of things isn't actually huge in this day and age in football. Would you agree?
Yeah, it's not game changing. £100 million nowadays doesn't stretch very far. In that interview on the Spurs YouTube channel, Vinay mentioned, the women's team. They want to try and help make that successful on the pitch as well. So they are going to funnel money towards that. There'll be money funneled in towards the academy. There might be new staff that maybe they want to be able to fund and bring in here as well. There's loans that need to be repaid, transfer fees that need to be repaid. Once you sort of allocate all of that around, I would argue probably left with about 50 million, or you'd hope at least a 50 million war chest. But again, it's all down how you spend it, right? We got Kudus for, not too much more than that. Look at him. We paid a bit less than that for someone like Brennan Johnson, and look what we've got back for that. So sort of like it's all about how you spend it, James, really.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Like Spurs have always had a bit of money to spend. We just spent it poorly.
Yeah, we could list off 2 handfuls of names right now that haven't worked out in the last 5-6 years, couldn't we? And Ndombele, Brian Hill, Lo Celso didn't really do much. All these players that have not made an impact, and then we've had to keep them for several years. I completely agree, mate. I completely agree. Some people would say Johnson wasn't good £50 million spent. Some people would say the same about Richarlison. What was he? 40 million. It's just, I completely agree. Adam saying 100 million, they said, and Lewis said that there is more. 100 million gets you nothing these days. We need a striker and a left winger. Logan saying, agreed. We've made some very strange signings over the years. So agreeing with what you're saying there, Dave. Adam's also saying Vlahovic in January would be a great start, and to get rid of Richarlison. Potentially, we'll talk maybe about a couple of signings in a minute, because January transfer window is 3 months away, but I've already seen, the links as always. Content's got a content, as Sean Butler says.
Tenfold now, lad. They'll be tenfold now. After you watch tomorrow, wake up will be linked to, Zinedine Zidane's son. The new R9. You watch.
Yeah, exactly, mate. I'm sure there's going to be lots of content for us YouTubers to make. THFC Frank, big up Frankie boy. Thomas Frank's AI son, aka my co-host. He's on the train. He said he's gutted to missing it. Hope you guys are both well. Hope you're doing well, Frank. Thanks for the video. Frank did a little video on this £100 million investment earlier. We put it up about 2 hours ago or an hour or two ago. So go and check that out, guys, afterwards. Johnson's hat-trick tonight. He probably will score a hat-trick against England. Dave, we'll talk about international break. We'll move on from the investment side of things because I'm sure you've probably been talking about it all day with your friends or on your channel. But we'll talk about the international side of things just very quickly and with a focus on, obviously, the Spurs players. Jed Spence again in the fold for England. Not sure if he's going to start tonight against Wales, but that's a friendly that potentially we could see Jed being involved with. We've also, of course, got other international players. I believe Sarri's out in international duty. I just need to double check who Senegal are playing. They're playing South Sudan 2 o'clock tomorrow. So you'd imagine that Pape Matar Sarr will be involved in that one as well. Any other ones you wanted to pick out? Obviously, Xavi Simons probably involved for Netherlands as well. Just quickly, Dave, what do you think of the international break? Does it just bore the life out of you, or are you looking forward to your Ireland game? Just let me know what you're thinking.
I'll be honest, James. I look around the world and I'm seeing a lot of people lose a lot of love for international football. And I'm trying to work out, is that because of the way it's gone, or is that because of, the current sort of political, climate and stuff like that, where, patriotism isn't cool anymore and stuff like that. So, I'm trying to work out, what it is. But in general, you look at a team like Ireland, for instance, you question, did the players even want to be there anymore in terms of, are they just going through the motions and stuff like that? Have they maybe piled on too many international games now? And I think, when you look at the 2 international breaks we've had sort of in quick succession, it's almost like you're so excited for the Premier League to come back around. It's back around, transfer window stops, you're on the international break, you get going again, and all of a sudden you're stopping again for more international break. And for me, I think it's a bit of a silly window. I think they should just leave it at the sort of September one, or maybe leave it at one in November or something like that, and sort of then get out into the new site, the new year, and sort of take it from there. But for me, I just think a lot of people are losing a lot of love sort of for international football. Now, I'll always watch Ireland, no matter how bad we are, no matter the turmoil we go through or the pain that they cause me and stuff like that. I'll always sit there and enjoy it. But in general, I think international football is dying. It needs a revamp.
Yeah, no, I do agree, mate. I do agree. It's a shame. I always get massively up for the England games during the World Cup and Euros and to an extent the Nations League. But when it comes to all these pointless friendlies, mate, and I've got to be honest, it kind of does my head in, because there's 2 reasons. One, my love for Spurs is more than England. And so it gets to a point where you're just worried about if your players are going to get injured because of the amount of fixtures. It would be more enjoyable if it was less often. And like you just said about the 2 or 3 different international breaks before December, I think they're changing that next year or the year after, where they're combining 2 of the international breaks down, so it's just a longer international break, which I think will probably be better. But at the same time, it's like there's going to be then 3 weeks without club football probably. What do you make of that?
Yeah, look, I think, I would rather than make it all into one sort of international break. And look, I'd be okay with having sort of an international period, as long as it's one period rather than stopping and starting. But look, when it comes to the international friendlies, look, there was international friendlies when I grew up. They were exciting. I remember going up to Lansdowne Road watching, Ireland, Australia. I remember watching, a couple of other Ireland, USA, and a couple of other friendlies up there. They were exciting, But nowadays, you look at some of the friendlies that are being organised for Ireland. There's never really any big friendly games in there and stuff like that. But I also think, years gone by, players were proud to turn up for their country and represent it. They'd put their bodies on the line almost. Nowadays, you're looking at, and a lot of them don't want to be there. Even when they're out on the pitch, it's like, it's not really played at any great intensity. For instance, I'd be so frustrated if I was an England fan. Got all the talent in the world, probably some of the best players to pick from, and they always have done. But they never really transcend that into, performances on the pitch or go and blow away teams and stuff like that. And, for me, I think you got to really sort of question the commitment of a lot of these modern day players in terms of heading on to international duty. It's like there's no pride left in it anymore. It's like a job to them almost nowadays, rather than, because before you'd hear how proud they were about getting called up and everything else and the pride they had for representing their nation. Whereas now I think a lot of them almost take it for granted.
Yeah. No, exactly. And they'll probably look back one day and think, wow, I represented my nation. I'm a 0.001% of all footballers that get to play for their country, and it's like I don't want to pick out individuals, but certainly recently I notice it when a player just gets called up for an international team, and they're like, "Yeah, I'm really happy to be representing my nation." It's like the most monotone interview. It's like you might as well say you don't really give a flying toot, because actually you probably don't. And some people do genuinely believe players like Harry Kane genuinely live and die and love playing for England. But there's certain ones in the England team that I just think they think it's another game. They think they're just, it's a bit prima donna, Dave. I'm going to be honest. I agree with you. I just think it's a bit, it's all gone a bit like silly. It's all gone a bit silly. And maybe the players just think this is too many games. I'm not getting paid enough for this. That is probably some of their mindset, which is absolutely crazy, but it should be a privilege. Like I look at, not to go off on one about internationals, but like back in like bit before my time, but like the 90s, early 90s, when sort of England were in the Euro 1996. And have you ever seen that video where they go along the line and you've got Stuart Pearce, you've got, I think it's Gaza, you've got Lineker, Shearer, and they're all like so locked in, singing with their heart on their sleeve. And it's like, you just don't get that now. 30 years down the line, you do not get that now. And I don't know what it's like with Ireland. I don't watch many Ireland games, but when they're singing the international breaks and stuff, international songs and, national anthems, I don't feel like that passion's quite there anymore, especially with England. I don't know about Ireland, but that's what I get.
Look, I've seen players, even in rugby, I've seen players cry, when the national anthem is there, the hands on the chest, on the heart and stuff like that. And everyone's singing. Nowadays, you go across the line, half of them don't even know what the words to the national anthem and that anymore. Like, it's, look, I think it's just a sign of the times we're in.
Absolutely, mate. Absolutely. But just quickly, I wanted to pick out something that I just saw online. So Ghana beat Central African Republic, or a huge game that is. And Kudus didn't score any of the 5 goals, but he did get an assist in the first half, Dave, for Salisu. So he did get a goal contribution in that one. So a little international watch. Just quickly on Mohamed Kudus, mate. I just want your thoughts on him. Looks like he played in the number 10 for Ghana yesterday, if Google is right. Semenya on the left there, Fatawu on the right, and Jordan Ayew up top. Bit of an original, and an unnamed 32-year-old in midfield just behind as well. Dave, what do you make of Mohamed Kudus' performance last weekend? And how key do you think he will be if we lost someone like Mohamed Kudus to injury, for example?
Well, ironically, when fans were saying selling Harry Kane was a good idea, it's because we didn't want to be so dependent on one guy. We're more dependent on one guy than we ever have been before. We were, and realistically, when fans were talking about selling Harry Kane, they're like, we don't want to be dependent on one guy. Well, we weren't. We were dependent on a duo, the best duo statistically the Premier League has ever seen. Now we are literally relying on him to create stuff for us, because a lot of the others can't. Look, I really like Mohamed Kudus. For me, I was very excited when we signed him, because when I grew up, and I sort of sitting there the other day thinking back on it, like what was I excited about when I was watching footballers growing up? Some of my favorite footballers I like watching, they were mavericks. They got on the ball. They didn't do the mundane passing it side to side and letting other. They got on the ball. They got turned. They took players on, or they played a lovely progressive pass forward, or they were able to score beautiful goals and solo efforts and stuff like that. And that's what I really like about Mohamed Kudus. Every time he gets the ball, he wants to get turned and run at his guy. Even if he's getting the ball with 2 players behind him and it's coming at him like an 80 mile per hour missile, he still takes it down, still gets turned, and still rinses the 2 people that are trying to take the ball off him. And for me, it's just sort of like a throwback of what you want your wingers to do. I think when I look at the modern game now, and I think it's been the case for the last couple of seasons at Spurs, you look at a lot of the wingers, they sort of pass back, pass inside, and you're sort of looking at them like, what are you getting paid to do? Brennan Johnson is a prime example. And I don't want to harp on about the guy, but this is something that I'll continuously try to point out. If a manager doesn't set up the system for him to be able to arrive at the back post and tap it in, what good is he? And I think we're seeing that this season. You go to the game against Bodo Glimt where he got his opportunity. Every time he got the ball, he passed backwards. I don't think he attempted any dribble attempts, but as soon as Mo Kudus come on, he had like 13 dribble attempts, so many passes forward and stuff like that. So for me, I think Kudus is a throwback to what I like about wingers. Traditionally, you pay your wingers to get on the ball, beat their man, and create something. Too many years at Tottenham, with the likes of Johnson, Udebert, Tell, and players like that, we're just passing on the responsibility. They just couldn't do it. So I really like that about Kudus. But, for me, it's always about end product as well. It's great being able to beat a player, but do you have the end product to match? And Kudus has come in and demonstrated that. I think it's 4 assists, 1 goal, since he's arrived. I think that's absolutely brilliant. Now, obviously, I think for him to reach the next level, he needs to add more goals. But I do think they're coming. And I think he realized that. I think he knows that. And I think he has the hunger to sort of add that to his game. But I think the biggest testament is the fact that we're so dependent on him already, even though he's only a new signing into this team. I think is the biggest sort of, respect I can pay him. Too many years gone by, I've heard excuses for signings. Give him time. Let him settle. Stuff like that. Like, well, if we bought the right player, we wouldn't have this conversation. And case of point, Kudus.
Yeah, no, you're spot on. And with the whole winger, you've almost made it into a debate there. Not you personally, but the whole idea about a winger having to be a one-on-one player. A winger is a player that should be beating their man and making things happen. I mean, what are we doing here? If you play on the wing, right, you should be agile. You should be quick. Not necessarily quick, but have the ability to beat your man. Like Kulusevski's not best for pace, but when you put on the right, at least he tries to take on his man and put in a cross. These players, like you said, let's not single them out, but in our team at the moment, Johnson, Tell, and Odebert, they don't seem to be able to beat their man confidently and put in a good cross, and that's a big problem. That's a big problem for a winger. I don't think there should be. It's like a butcher turning up for work without a knife. Do you know what I mean? Like, what? It's a key component to that position, to that job role, and they're not doing it. Like, it's absolutely nuts. But I'm going to catch up on the chat, guys. The numbers are growing. Understand that international break and everything else, people just want to not talk about football for a couple of weeks, or maybe people do. But listen, I appreciate everyone that's tuned in. I really appreciate the likes of Adam, Logan, Simon, evening to you. Ghosted. The actual tournaments are good. It's just all these qualifiers that they added in the Nation League as well. Logan saying, I'm the same. I'm Spurs before England, but Nation League is probably the most pointless tournament. Dafarshire, big up yourself, saying the home championship tournament was always interesting. What's that one, Dave? Yes. The home championship tournament.
I think they trialed it for a year or two there, not so long ago. They had Ireland, England, Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland, if you remember, in sort of like a mini league. We all played each other, I think, at least once. So for me, I think the whole idea about it was to sort of just get rid of the pointless friendlies that some of them were playing, and actually have some sort of competitive something to play for, to keep the players interested and stuff like that. For me, I actually really enjoyed it. I thought it was good. And to be honest with you, I think there should be something like that, in terms of, for our international football for the 5 countries. I think it was very, very good, and it was enjoyable in general. But look, I also think the Nation League concept in general was a good idea. It just doesn't work, and I think they need to look at it and maybe break it up a bit, but in general, it's a good concept. It is to sort of get rid of a lot of pointless friendlies. But it's pointless when a lot of these national teams are only playing for like promotion. And then, like, if you're Ireland, you get promoted from Division 4 Group G, and you get promoted to Division 4 Group C. Like, what difference does it make? It doesn't really matter whatsoever, So in effect, these players are still looking at them and going, pointless friendlies, So I think it does need a revamp or something different. But the concept is good. Give them something competitive to play for.
Yeah, exactly. Trying to make the friendlies more competitive is good, but yeah, like you said, I think it's now the gloss has kind of come off of it, and it's becoming very much like it's like pointless friendlies at times. There's a lot of dead rubbers, especially when the groups are done. I completely agree, mate. Tyler's in here. I'll write back saying, "Look at these 2 goobers. Hope you're doing well, James and Dave." Any pep talk for Ty for the next Pro Club session? Just very quickly, Dave.
Do you know what? I find it hard to critique Ty because, in fairness, he's one of them selfless fullbacks. Unlike you, James, you do like to burst forward, and you sort of shirk responsibility at times, whereas Tyler has no problem tucking in. He gets a lot of last-ditch tackles in, covers the centre-backs, good on the ball. And in fairness, he's the guy you can put in midfield. He'll do a midfielder's job, put him out wide, he'll do a winger's job, score goals and assist goals. So, actually, And I think Tyler probably knows this because I actually never get onto him because I don't have any complaints about his game. That's why I don't get onto him whatsoever, actually. I just wish he'd give me the same grace at times, though. That'd be the only
He's rightly pointed out that he's the left back and I'm the right back. So that just sums up that I didn't even know where I'm playing most of the time, mate. I got the position wrong. John Stokes is saying, evening, James and Dave. Spence is playing tonight. Brilliant. Okay, there we go then. Just very quickly, Dave, to wrap up the international break. And guys, there is quite a few of you in the chat now across Twitter, YouTube, etc. There's like 70 of you. Please do hit the like button if you're on YouTube. Make sure you're subscribing. And in a minute, I'm going to ask you guys to go and check out Dave's channel if, of course, you don't already subscribe. But please do hit the like button here. Turn on the notification bell down below and subscribe. All three are free to do so. And if you are in a position to be able to do a super chat or a membership, if you become a member, you can come on this show when we do the fan shows and panel shows. So please do get your memberships in as well. But Tyler's saying, cheers, Dave. I just try to wind you up because you've been silent lately. Yeah, it's a new Dave. It's a new
I found
Dave
Jesus, Tyler. I found Jesus. That's the thing. And I'm listening to more tranquil music as well. I think helps as well. Bit of Mozart on a Friday night,
Anyway, just very quickly, and we'll come off internationals because I want to look ahead at Tottenham's next few games. But Kudus played, like I said, he got an assist in a 5-0 win. Then you've got some of the youngsters as well involved in some of the under-19s and under-18s matches. You've also got Jed. Sorry, this website's got so many adverts on it. You've also got Kevin Danzo playing for Austria in a qualifier. That is tonight. You've also got Spence and Davies in a friendly. And Johnson, of course. So Spence and Davies and Johnson up against each other. Vuskovic, hopefully he gets some game time for Croatia because he's been absolutely phenomenal for Hamburg since he's joined. Apparently one of the best defenders in the league, I'm hearing, Dave.
I'm very surprised. Look, I'm very surprised we didn't keep him around off the back of his, impact straight away in the preseason game against Reading, And I know a lot of people go, it's only Reading, but I think if you look how dangerous he was from the set pieces, and how Thomas Frank relies on them an awful lot right now, I thought maybe there could have been something done there, but I think that loan was more driven on Voskovic's end, where he believes he's at a certain level and he should be playing week in, week out, and we couldn't guarantee him them minutes, of course, with Van de Ven and Romero there. So I think in order to keep the player happy, we sort of loaned them out.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think it was more for the players' sake. Skipping over, obviously, feel free to have a look at some of the youngsters. I'm just going to go with the top liners for now. The main players, Richarlison, Brazil away, friendly against Sonny, South Korea tomorrow. That'll be an interesting one to see how he comes up against Sonny. Pape Matar is away at South Sudan, as we said earlier. Bergveld is playing for Sweden against Switzerland. And just coming down a little bit further, Oliver and Tell, France under 21s, which is on tomorrow as well against Faroe Islands. And then you've got Cuti Romero, friendly against Venezuela. Solomon, Israel away against Norway. Palinha, Portugal at home against Ireland. Big game for Ireland then on Saturday in the qualifier. Can you guys still qualify or not?
Honestly, it's embarrassing, the way the TV are trying to advertise the game, right? See, it's going to take me a minute because there's a broader story around this. But in general, the FAI is bankrupt with huge problems. The previous guy, Delaney, used the money for his, daughter's birthday, his wife's, or daughter's wedding, wife's birthday, stuff like that. And then when he left, everyone goes, "Where's the money gone?" And then they found out and stuff. But anyway, he's just been let away scot-free and stuff like that. So they put a new guy in the charge, and the government literally said, just balance the books, make sure there's no nefarious payments, that we discover, and we'll fund you, help you get back on your feet. Well, when the time came around to turn around the books, of course, there was nefarious payments made here, there, and everywhere. So, the government are like, well, we ain't going to fund you and stuff like that. Now, the government are still going to try and help fund, the League of Ireland football clubs. They gave them funding there in the recent budget, in terms of $3 million to help them develop academies and stuff like that. But, basically, this World Cup being in the USA, we needed to qualify. It would have been a huge cash cow for the Republic of Ireland and the FAI, given the amount of Irish connections and heritage out there and stuff like that. Would have been a huge cash cow. So we go and draw. We go 2-0 down to Hungary inside 12 minutes. Everyone's like, well, that's the campaign over and done with. We come back, salvage draw. Okay, not the worst thing, in the world. We'll take that, move on. Go and get 3 points against Armenia. Keep yourself in the hunt. Well, James, we went and got popped off the park. I mean, it was like watching that prime pet Barcelona team against us. We couldn't get close to them. And bear in mind, half of the people over this side of the world don't even know where Armenia is in Europe, because they're so irrelevant in terms of international football. It's absolutely embarrassing. We lost that. We got played off the park. So our campaign's over. But the TV in general are trying to we need to win these two and it's back on. It's like, but we're not going to beat Portugal. Can't beat Armenia and we can't even get tackling against them. What makes you think we're going to be able to deal with the likes of Paulini or Ronaldo and players like that? It's absolutely insane. However, like a loser, I am going to sit down and watch it.
Well, good luck to you anyway. But you can still get, if you were to miraculously win, you can still qualify, or.
Well, it's a long ask. You're hoping other teams drop points along the way.
Nice.
And we have to more or less win every single game. We have to do a double over Portugal. We have to beat Sabozlai's team Hungary out there in Hungary. It's just done and dusted. They ain't sending me.
Okay, let's see how Ireland get on. But Porro's playing for Spain against Georgia. Doji and Vicario. Well, Vicario is going to get nowhere near that Italy team. He's probably lucky to be in the Tottenham team at times. And then Xavi Simons and Mickey van der Ven will be interesting to see how they get on Sunday against Finland. Danzo is in action against Romania. Vuskovic for Croatia against Gibraltar. Basuma, maybe he'll get some time for Mali against Madagascar. Maybe you'll see Alex the Lion over there and the other zoo characters. And Kudus, Ghana again against Comoros. And then Monday, even more fixtures. Sweden again and so on. And Romero again for Argentina in a friendly. So hopefully he doesn't get played. And then also Portugal are playing Hungary, as you just mentioned. Hungary, a tough team to play against. Richarlison again against Japan. And Spence, England are playing Latvia on Tuesday. And that's about it. So interesting. Where have we gone? Interesting fixtures. Dave, I want to now talk about, for the last sort of 5-10 minutes, about Tottenham's next few fixtures. Because at the end of the day, it's Spurs related. There's another guy that keeps coming in every stream saying about Spurs are crap. I love the fact you come back, mate. I love the fact you come back and laugh at Spurs, because you just add into my views. It's absolutely perfect. Keep coming back. Absolutely love you being here. Keep smashing the support. Tyler saying, I don't think Basuma is in the team. Madagascar have a national team, says Ghosted. And also earlier when you were talking about you finding Jesus and all the music, Dave, Daniel Field saying, lovely, Dave. Bit of Mozart, Bashir, Debussy.
I haven't tried Debussy, but I'll type it in on Spotify. I'll give it a listen and I'll let you know what out of 10 what I give it, Daniel.
There you go. Right, as I said, let's quickly talk about the next few fixtures. Let me just zoom in on that, because my eyes are definitely not good enough to see that. And I know, Dave, you were complaining when I beat you at FIFA about your eyesight as well. So let's just say we're both not got the best eyesight.
I need to wear glasses. I don't want to look sexy, so I don't wear them.
But anyway, we've got Villa in 10 days' time. On Sunday, and what's your thoughts? Well, firstly, let me just skim through the fixtures, then I'll get your thoughts on what the result will be. But Monaco away, that's tough. Everton away, that's very tough. Newcastle away, very tough. Chelsea at home, tough. Copenhagen should be a win, but who knows? Man United at home, you should expect to be winning, but then Arsenal away, PSG away, and we won't go too much further. But Dave, what an absolute horrific run of fixtures, not to mention that they're once every 3 days, sorry.
Yeah, look, it's a real tough run of fixtures, ones that maybe Tottenham down the years have notoriously found tough. It's also the sort of period we're coming into where, the new manager bounce has rubbed off very, very quickly in years gone by on the previous regimes. So it'll be interesting to see where this one goes. But, that's why maybe explains why people maybe think I've been a bit harsh on Thomas Frank and the team so far, and I haven't got away sitting there happy clapping, because we're sitting there in fourth and stuff like that. Because, I put real emphasis on the fixtures at the start, knowing that this tough period was coming up, So I think the drop points to like Bournemouth at home, is not good enough. I think the drop points, to Wolves wasn't good enough. I think, when you look at our Champions League fixtures, you got PSG, Dortmund, and Frankfurt back to back to finish it out. That's why I think it was very important to, go and beat Bodo. So I think, I'm a bit concerned, if fixtures like that might come back to haunt Tottenham this season. The fact that we didn't get the job done in them sort of games, because they're the games that, you need to be winning as bankers. When you do go into these big fixtures, you get a bit more of a reprieve from fans because you're more points stacked on the board and stuff like that. But what I worry about more so, James, is you're coming up against better teams now. It's well and good scoring 2 against Leeds, 3 against Burnley, and 3 against West Ham. All teams that are probably expected to fight relegation. See how we do ripping everything open. Aston Villa, Newcastle, Chelsea, the bigger and better teams that defend a lot better than these teams that we come up against. Midfield's a lot better as well. And also going forward, they punish you a lot more. Look, it's going to be difficult. But I do see a lot of positive signs. I think the fact that Frank knows, okay, we're not rip-roaring going forward, but we're good from set pieces. We're a danger from set pieces. We can score goals from set pieces. We didn't have that under previous regime. So even when we're not playing well and we're not the greatest from open play, we still have an avenue of scoring goals. We're also a lot tighter at the back line. We concede half the amount of shots on our goal compared to what we have done over the last couple of seasons, which increases your opportunity to be able to keep clean sheets, which then give you a chance of winning games. So look, we are a very sort of boring, dull side in general to watch. But maybe that's what you need heading into some of these games. Maybe some of these teams might not respect us as much, might actually come out and play a little against us, leave us a bit of space to go in behind and exploit. And you're hoping the likes of Kudus, Xavi Simons come to the fore. Hopefully we can get Mwani back for this period. I think maybe Dejan Kulusevski should be close enough to be in and around and involved in stuff like that. Get some of our better players back. Maybe we can make a good run of it. But this is make or break for me, I think, for, Tottenham and Thomas Frank in general, because I know a lot of fans can sit here and say, give it time. We've been here. When these games come in thick and fast and you're struggling and you don't know where your next win's going to come from, people don't care about time. They start caring about the immediate. And that's where people will start turning on Frank and stuff like that. So I think this next period is important. But I would say to Spurs fans, it ain't all on Tommy Frank, by the way. At the end of the day, it is also up to the players. We know from previous, and everyone that speaks about Frank in the game, he's tactical, he's methodical. These players go into the game knowing exactly what they're supposed to do. At the end of the day, you also rely on your players to go and execute the game plan. In years gone by, and everyone that's left the football club, managers, all of our better players, well, the problem is no one really cares about winning and losing at Tottenham Hotspur. Winning doesn't mean everything. It's okay to lose. There's a culture of it's acceptable to lose at Tottenham. Unless that changes, and that's only going to change within the playing squad. That has to change within the players themselves. Then they give, this a chance. At the end of the day, if I'm in that dressing room and I'm someone like Romero, I'm looking at it. We're fourth right now. We've got a good chance of making out of the Champions League group stage into the knockouts. One good January transfer window can change everything. It gives you an opportunity. So for me, I would say I'd gather the team and I'd pull them all in together and say, guys, losing is no longer acceptable. There's going to be a new sort of intensity in training. If there's anyone dicking about, I'm not going to wait for Thomas Frank, the coaching staff, to get on you. I will kick you inside. You're either committed or you're not. I'm motivated by winning. I'm motivated by trophies. I'm club captain. You're either with us or against us. And I think, if that's what I'd be doing if I'm club captain, I'd say, guys, we may not have expected to be here, but we're in with an opportunity to make it a good season. Let's take it.
Could you see? I completely agree, mate. But could you see Romero doing that? Could you see him essentially doing something like that?
It's club captain. I would say we've got more chance of him doing it than anybody else. At the end of the day, the guy is motivated by winning trophies. That's why maybe there was rumors about him leaving, that he might have to leave to go and pick up more trophies and stuff like that. He wanted to be the club's highest earner. He wanted club captain. We got given it as a part of his contract. Now it's time for him, to reward us Spurs fans. And at the end of the day, with the contract that he signed, he's going to be here for another 3-4 years at least. It's up to him what 3-4 years he wants at this football club. It's up to him to set the culture and the standard.
Yeah, I agree, mate. I agree. Ghost makes good. Romero needs to turn up in the small games as well as the big ones, because I would agree. I don't think Romero, I know this isn't the talking point. It's more about his leadership qualities, but the fact that he hasn't been turning up in some of the games. He didn't have a good game against did he not have a good game against Wolves? He didn't have a good game against Brighton as well. What do you make of Romero in terms of his consistency? Just very quickly, mate.
I'll be honest, lad. I think Romero is one of them where I think he gets a hard report from the Spurs fan base. I have a big concern in general. When it comes to selling some of our better players, a lot of people take the opinion. They don't want to be here, cash in on them. But when it comes to likes of Ben Davies, Brennan Johnson, people make every excuse in the world to get them a contract renewal, give them time, give them patience, this, that, and the other. When it comes to Romero, there was a lot of injuries. A lot of people maybe made a narrative around it that, he just wants to play for Argentina. He doesn't want to play for Tottenham. I mean, absolute nonsense. That's just made up, drivel made up by fans. And I get that he's had injury problems, but maybe haven't been handled the best in seasons gone by and stuff like that. But for me, I think Spurs fans need to start appreciating the centre-back we've had. We lost Toby and Jan. We went through Dyer, Davies, Sanchez, and every other Joe Rode and everything else. And, we were absolutely atrocious across the back line. Romero coming in here has improved that single-handedly. Yeah, exactly. But he's brought Van de Ven on with him as well. We're back to a Toby Alderweireld and a and a Vertonghen sort of partnership. But I would argue what I love most about Romero is he's an absolute assassin on the football pitch. He's so aggressive, which is a rarity in the modern game. You got a lot of soft players out there, whereas Romero, he hits hard. That's what you want your centre backs to do. Go out there, lay down the law nice and early. And, in years gone by, a lot of people have sat there and gone, he's rash, he's this, he's that, and the other. I mean, I would argue it's easy to look rash when you're the only one throwing in challenges and you're watching Dyer jockey off players 20, 25 yards every time and everything else. It's easy to look rash. Whereas I've always maintained, I think Romero is a world-class centre-back. He's one of the best centre-backs I've seen in terms of on the football. Not only does he have an unbelievable passing range, but he can also dribble the ball and take players on. He can score goals up the other end. He injures players down the other end in terms of, I watched him make a tackle on St. Maximin. St. Maximin put his hand up for a substitution to be taken out of the game because a lot of players don't want that aggression that he brings and stuff like that. And I've also seen players, sort of shy away from their duties on the day because they don't want the battle with Romero. For me, I think he's absolutely world class. So I don't understand any of the hate or anything towards him. I think at Spurs in general, fans need to get a lot more respect for our best players.
Yeah, no, that's very, very good point. I just think, I think the only thing I'd say is I don't think he's indefensible. I don't think he's, uncritiquable. Like you can critique some of his performances, and I would say at times he hasn't been incredible, but 90% of the time he's been pretty good. And you look at that run in the Europa League at the end of last season. He got player of the match in the final. I think he was absolutely sensational, him and Van de Ven, and that made all the difference for us probably winning that Europa League. I think, Dave. So. Yeah, I think you're right in terms of the respect point of view as well. Just very quickly, because we did digress a bit, and that is absolutely my fault, but that's what we do. We go down these little rabbit holes during these streams. In terms of the next 5 games, we'll stick to 5 because I know we've got some daunting matches against Arsenal and PSG. I don't even want to think about that yet, mate. I don't know about you. But let's stick with the next 5. So we've got Villa at home on Sunday, the 19th of October. And this is time for the chat as well. The 70 or so of you watching, to please also put your comments and your score predictions in the chat for this one. But Dave, Tottenham Villa on Sunday 19th of October. Do you think we'll get the win?
We're not good at home, James. We have a very poor home record this year. If we do win, it'd be by 1 goal, a 1-goal margin. Villa ain't scoring a lot of goals. They've also got their own problems. We're not great going forward. And off the back of the international break, a lot of them games are usually dull affairs the first game back as well until teams find the rhythm. So I would go, I think if Tottenham were to win it, which I think is a big ask, I think by a 1-goal margin.
2-1 or something like that.
Yeah, 1-0, 2-1.
Cool, guys. Let us know in the chat what you're thinking on that one. Monaco away in the Champions League. I don't think this is an easy game. Only 3 days later. I mean, who's done the fixtures here? Why are we playing on Sunday, not Saturday? You got to ask yourself that question. Having God knows how many days off before and then to play on a Sunday doesn't quite make sense to me, Dave. I don't know about you. I'm not going to start sounding like Pep Guardiola, but that is an absolute shambles. Monaco away, mate. What do you reckon?
Do you know what? I know they gave Man City a good game, but they got absolutely routed by was it Club Brugge or something like that from Germany, in the first opening game. Paul Pogba plays for them. He's got attitude problems. For me, I think we can beat them.
Has Pogba even played yet? I don't know.
He's back from his suspension anyway. He signed for them, didn't he?
Yeah. I just don't know if he's even But you're right. Monaco lost 4-1 to Bruges away in Belgium. 4-1.
Can't be that great, then, can they?
Say again? Yeah, I know. But in terms of how they've started in the league, Monaco, they are currently sitting 5th, so not too bad. But they are behind Strasbourg, Lyon, PSG, and Marseille. So probably about where you'd expect them, to be fair. Then we've got Everton at home. Now, I've got to just quickly make my point on this one, mate. I think this is going to be a very, very tough game. Everton looking really, really good at home and really hard to beat, I think, is the summary on this. What do you make of this at their new stadium?
We've always struggled Everton away. Everton away every year is a difficult fixture for us. We got humble up there under Ange Postecoglou. I think we struggle up there against Conte. It's genuinely a tough fixture, Everton away. Plus, they're in their new stadium. They're hard to beat under Moisey. Surely we should have enough to beat them, though, James. You think?
You think a win?
I would hope so, but I think, if I'm going off the last couple of years, I'll take a point out of it.
Okay, so essentially we've got win, and in Monaco, you said you think we can get a result?
Yeah, we should be beating them, lad. I don't look at that City performance. I look at the 4-1 against Bruges. They're capable of not turning up on their days. All we got to do is turn up with the right attitude. We beat them.
Okay, and then arguably these next two are the hardest ones. You got EFL Cup, a very, very tough game up at Newcastle midweek in 2 weeks' time, or 3 weeks' time actually. What do you make of this one, mate?
If there was any team in the cup I didn't want, it was Newcastle, lad. We haven't fared well against Newcastle in recent years, have we? We've got a couple of hidings off them in general. It's going to be a difficult evening. I think that's one where I'm looking at. If they can pick up a result there, I might start saying the mentality is changing a little. In general, I think it's going to be a long, tough evening, though, James, to be honest with you.
Yeah, no, I'm not confident on this one, mate. Do you also think that the games, just very quickly, the games before it could affect it? For example, say we went to Monaco and we lost. Say we went to Everton and we lost. You just then go into that Newcastle game expecting the worst, don't you?
Yeah, 100% you do. 100% you do. These games have a knock-on effect. I remember under Ange Postecoglou in the first season, we came out of the second part of the year. We had a couple of games on the run-up before we started going into Newcastle, Arsenal, Chelsea, Liverpool, all the big teams back to back that we should have picked up points in and we didn't. And when we didn't do that, we didn't get maximum points from some of them games. We went into that and we got played off the park every week. And everyone wanted the manager sacked then. So these games have a massive part to play. You can't get on to a losing run in these games because they're coming in so quick and fast. It's very important we get off to a good start in them first 3 games. So then when you've got the likes of Chelsea, at home, you've got Newcastle in the cup coming up. Then you also have a North London derby not long after that and stuff like that. That's why it's very important you start off well off the back of this international break.
Sure, absolutely, completely agree, mate. And then just finally, Chelsea at home on the 1st of November, which I'm sure will come around very quickly in 3.5 weeks' time. What do you expect here, mate? Because I don't know. Every time we play Chelsea at home, I keep thinking about that 4-1 where we got 9 men under Postecoglou. I know times have changed a lot since then, but what do you think on this one, mate?
Do you know what? I love these games. It's full of hatred. Like 2 teams that really hate each other, 2 fan bases that really hate each other. I absolutely love this fixture every single year. And the games at Tottenham Hotspur always create chaos. If it was at Stamford Bridge, I'd say it's going to be a long day. We don't have a great record there in general, But at home, I think, we'll give them a good game. We'll give them a good game. Yeah, there's usually chaos. There's usually a red card as well. And the red card sort of dictates who sort of goes on to win the game. So I'm looking forward to it. I'm not going to predict it's going to be impossible because a red card will happen and it'll change the game.
Yeah, and I hope it's not Cuti Romero like it was that one of those red cards in that 9.
Well, that wasn't a red card, though. That was absolutely ridiculous. I remember batting against the narrative at the time. You put a football down in front of the wall and go and kick that football, right? Put it right down, right in front of the wall. Go and kick that football and tell me you're not following through and kicking that wall off the back of it. It was a decision made by someone who's never played the game in their life. They think they're playing basketball where it should be non-contact. It's a joke.
Yeah, absolutely. No, agree, mate. Agree. Connor's in here, Leavonomics. Big up, Connor. I'm sure I'll see you at the Spurs game very soon, mate, for another pint. And Ghosted saying Romero and Mickey are the best we've had since Jan and Toby. But Romero is not only the leader of the defence, but also the leader of the whole team. Just need a bit more consistency from the captain. Do you think that's a fair summary, Dave?
I like Ghosted, but no, I love Romero. To be honest with you, I think he gets a hard rep by the fan base. I think, the minute things go wrong, people look to pull him out. Like, for instance, that Brighton goal, everyone goes, oh, well, he should have played the offside trap. I mean, you're talking about millimeters, but no one talked about Van de Ven vacating the position and just sprinting out, which created the gap for them to play into. Wilson Odegaard turning in and losing the ball. No one speaks about them. All of a sudden, the blame went straight onto Romero, and it's like, well, if you're going to judge Romero that harshly, well, then look at Van de Ven. I'm sorry, it was him that ran out, that created that space for them to play into in the first place.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. Absolutely. Yeah, maybe sometimes Romero is almost the scapegoat of some battles with the fan base and some arguments. But anyway, that has been great fun, Dave. I really thoroughly enjoyed that. We've gone slightly over what I said. But guys, before you all click off the video, please do me 4 massive favors. 3 of them being hit the like button down below. It's free to do so. Please turn on the notification bell down below as well, which is also free to do so. And subscribe if you are new. Turning on the notification bell means you never miss a live stream or a video. And we are doing pretty much daily content over here at SpursRelated. So I really appreciate all the support. If you're watching on repeat on catch up, please also comment. I reply to all of the comments as well. And the final thing, to show our appreciation to what has been a great guest, and I think Dave is going to be coming on our channel a lot more in the near future. And I'm going to be going on Irish Hotspur's channel pretty much every single Tuesday. So go and check out Dave's channel that I'll be on several times. Dave was coming up on the Irish Hotspur. And please, guys, click on that link, which I'm about to put 3 or 4 times on YouTube as well. Dave, what's coming up on...
To be honest with you, not much over the weekend unless, all hell breaks loose at Tottenham Hotspur. But then we'll be back, Monday with all the usual shows. We'll have yourself and Sam back on again Tuesday. Fan show then as well. Then we'll have Billy T on Thursday. And then Friday, oh no, we're not playing till Sunday. So Friday I'll have to come up with something. And then Saturday you'll get your predicted lineup. And then Sunday, all your usual match day festivities with our new look for the watch long. We've got all stats and lineups, all live stuff going on there. So, I think it'll help people have more of a fair assessment of the game with all the stats and everything in front of them, and being updated as the game goes along and stuff like that. So that's your jazz. Come over and see me.
Love it, mate. And I always watch your, I watch most of your videos, but I always watch the predicted lineup one before the matches where you bring up each player and why you think they'll start. They're always great. Great stuff. And Stefan saying, great show this evening. Really appreciate Stefan. Really appreciate the nice comments from Tyler, Ghosted, Connor, Daniel, and even from Not Brett May, who comes in here and just gives hate every single stream. Just keep coming back, mate. Keep giving me the clicks. Absolutely love it. And Daffer, Cher, Logan, Adam, a lot of you guys in there tonight, and Simon as well. Really appreciate all the support. Please go over to Dave's channel, hit him a subscribe, hit him a like on all his videos. Well, don't go on all. Well, you can go on all his videos if you want, but make sure you're giving him the support as well. Like this stream. Subscribe if you're new, comment and all that good stuff. And we'll see you very soon back on Spurs Related for another video or live stream. And remember, guys, as always, come on, you Spurs!